Greetings, my fellow free sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3-Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Sunday, August 31st, 2025. This is episode 1888. Vigilant Americans should be armed. Before I proceed, you can find me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Looky Look number 3, Looky Look Roman number 3 with 3 eyes, or the Looky Look Roman number 3 podcast. In addition, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, and all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. If you want to donate, go to PayPal.me or cash.app/Looky Look number 3. If you want to check me on Steemit, follow me, Crypto Love, etc. Steemit at LL number 3-podcast. All right. A lot of stuff is happening as usual. And I know crime has been, potential terrorist attacks, false flag events, been an issue. Of course, the illegal alien pickups with certain cities like Chicago. The mayor is trying to be such a drama queen. But the people in that city aren't that stupid. But remember, you always got a genius in the crowd. When they know best, it turns to crap. Well, I'm going to be reading here, based on all the insanity as usual, what's going on. This one here came from theamericanthinker.com. I'd like to thank All News Pipeline for sharing this. That's why I first seen it. And it's called Vigilant Americans Should Be Armed. And this was written by... I think his name is J.B. Shirk. As it reads here, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has called Trump the greatest threat to American democracy. Nonetheless, wants to erase the Second Amendment. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries calls Trump a racial arsonist and urges supporters to fight the Trump administration in the streets. Still, Jeffries wants to limit gun ownership and confiscate Americans' firearms. Of course. I'll keep on going here. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz claims Trump is a tyrant and who finds new ways to trample rights each day. Oh, the man who's the insurrectionist of the state of 10,000 lakes? Yeah. Think about that, man. A lot of projecting going on, right? Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia says Trump is a tyrant. Alex Padilla of California insists that Trump is a tyrant. Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon calls Trump a tyrant. Democrat leaders across the country have repeatedly described President Trump as a dictator, a racist, a white supremacist, a Russian agent, and a Nazi. They compare Trump to Adolf Hitler and other genocidal maniacs. They swear that Trump is the greatest threat to democracy that Americans have ever faced. Yet every one of these Democrats wants gun control. Even after taking oaths to defend the Constitution, they've actively worked to undermine the Second Amendment. They believe that only the U.S. military, federal agents, law enforcement officers, and private security details for the well-to-do should be permitted to carry firearms. Can we say pro-police state retortions? Absolutely. Consider this another example on why leftists sound insane to normal people. Rational individuals don't prance around complaining about dictatorship and tyranny while looking for every available excuse to disarm the public. Historically, when alert citizens feared that a government had become too powerful or an official had become too authoritarian, they encouraged their fellow citizens to be well armed and prepared to defend themselves. They did not make long-winded speeches in the town square insisting that the time had come for the people to hand over their weapons so that the tyrant could provide for their safety. In leftist, globalist, upside-down world, men get pregnant, free speech requires censorship. We're all about to die from climate change, and the best way to oppose fascism is to relinquish your guns to the government. As the kids like to say, make it make sense. One thing seems certain Democrats don't really believe. President Trump is a tyrant, but they are pretty sure that they will soon be back in power. Democrat officials are deliberately wiling up their political followers and legitimizing violence against Trump and his supporters. At the same time, Democrats expect to exercise exclusive authority over which Americans will be disarmed in the future. Why wouldn't they? Even with Trump in the White House, we live under a two-tier justice system right now in which Democrats commit crimes without consequences and Republicans are criminally punished for their political beliefs. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, John Brennan, Susan Rice, Jim Comey, James Clapper, and so many other co-conspirators spied on Republican presidential campaigns, defrauded the American people with the Russian collusion hoax, and attempted to overthrow President Trump in a coup d'etat. Those traitors will most likely never be so much as charged for their high crimes. Meanwhile, corrupt prosecutors and judges in Democrat-controlled jurisdictions have engaged in the worst kinds of lawfare against Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, political advisor Roger Stone, policy strategist Steve Bannon, economic advisor Peter Navarro, and numerous attorneys, including Rudy Giuliani, who litigated 2020 fraud-filled mail-in ballot presidential selection. 5 years ago, Antifa domestic terrorists and Black Lives Matter shock troops for the Democrat Party burned down entire neighborhoods and caused billions of dollars in property damage across the nation. Few of these Democrat foot soldiers have ever been prosecuted. Meanwhile, when Trump voters showed up in D.C. to protest the 2020 election, fraud, and demand secure elections, the FBI and DOJ dedicated unprecedented resources to hunt down every patriotic granny and selfless veteran for the crime of walking around the Capitol. Exactly. Like John Schaefer, for an example, pointing sternly and yelling. They tried to throw the book at him, but all the evidence has shown it didn't work. That's why the prosecutor agreed in good faith on that plea deal, because there was nothing happened. He was only there for 10 minutes, pointing sternly and yelling, and he had bear spray. He didn't know that was a law. He took responsibility for his actions. But they're still, all these dinkleberries out there will still call him an insurrectionist, right? I digress. I'll continue on. All right, let me see here. Yep, right there. Antifa propagandists. Yep, sorry about that. Meanwhile, when Trump voters showed up, fraud election, selfless crimes around the Capitol, the information warfare specialists in the corporate news still treat Antifa and BLM as if they were peaceful, virtuous organizations. Those same propagandists have spent the last plus 4 years defaming Trump voters as racist, terrorists, and insurrectionists. When it comes to Democrats' plans for gun control, there is no doubt that those who want to deprive Americans of their natural right to self-defense anticipated favorable and continuing two-tier justice, although public debate routinely centers around Americans' Second Amendment right to own weapons. And the heart of the issue also concerns the Fourth Amendment, the right of all Americans to be protected against unreasonable government searches without judicially sanctioned warrants, first establishing probable cause. If Democrats were serious about disarming dangerous criminals, after all, they will go door to door in every American neighborhood with an extensive gang presence and arrest anyone illegally in possession of a firearm. But Democrats have no interest in disarming known criminals. They have no interest in infringing upon known criminals' Fourth Amendment rights. They prefer to target the Second and Fourth Amendment rights of Americans without criminal records. So-called red flag laws aren't used to disarm urban gangs that's racist or mentally ill men who pretend to be women that's transphobic. They are used to target law-abiding gun owners with the wrong political beliefs. Democrat officials routinely ignore violent individuals with the right skin color or sexual fetishes Democrats looked on the other way when illegal aliens are found to be in possession of weapons. Conversely, Democrats force citizens to jump through hoops to secure concealed carry permits. Criminals get a pass. Citizens are forced to fight the bureaucracy of their constitutional rights. The more authority that Democrats obtain to confiscate Americans' firearms, the more certain it becomes that Democrat-aligned foot soldiers will be the only people entitled to a weapon. Like two-tier justice, two-tier self-defense is the Democrats' favorite kind of progress. Since the Catholic school shooting in Minneapolis, Democrats and the propaganda press have done everything they can to hide the fact that this anti-Christian attack marked another instance of trans terrorism and have instead exploited the tragedy by renewing calls for gun confiscation. Democrats' talking heads ignore the fact that Minnesota already has red flag laws, and that would have permitted Democrat officials to disarm the shooter. Has his trans delusions been considered a sign of troubling mental health? Because Democrats and the propaganda press have spent the last decade trying to convince normal people that mentally ill trans people deserve our respect. They cannot now admit the obvious, that violent men who believe they are women are a growing threat to society. I always call them another SSRI case. Just another example, my friends. That's what I'm adding right now. On the toxic sewage dump known as Re-edit, leftists are advocating for more attacks on white Christians in order to achieve their dream of national gun bans. As one conservative notes, if they are open talking about killing you and your family while you're armed, imagine what they'll do once they disarm you. Other leftists are actually happy that a trans terrorist murdered Catholic school children and hoping that more mass shooters targeting Christians. The Minnesota Star-Tribune seems primarily concerned about how the trans terrorism and the murder of praying children will ultimately affect the trans community. For all their talk that President Trump's a dangerous tyrant, it is Democrats who continue to embrace violence against public adversaries. In other words, projecting. Eddie Scarry wrote an article for the Federalist last week entitled "Democrats Keep Talking About a Knife Fight and It's Time to Take Them Literally." In that piece, Scarry argues that the political party responsible for inciting at least 2 assassination attempts against President Trump last year is eager and ready to cross the point of no return. The Minneapolis Catholic school terror attack occurred the same day as the article's publication. There is no time for vigilant Americans to disarm. We must defend our families, neighbors, lives, and liberties. Absolutely correct. On my past couple of episodes, I did brought up on what happened at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis. And their gun laws are so heinous, illegal contracts under their own Bill of Rights. And when the Catholic Church in that jurisdiction, instead of going by their faith, they went with the state. I'm not saying this to go Catholic bashing either, okay? Just to make that clear. It is just one chilling example when people comply. And I did explain that a couple episodes ago on the Catechism of the Roman Catholic Church, which is sections, if I'm correct, 262 to 2262 to 2265 on legitimate defense. Hope I got that right. But I did a couple episodes. I did an episode on that on the Message Church. I got the links for that. You can read it for yourself. We have to see it in the bigger picture. What is going on right now? They really want to devour these United States and have it be controlled by a bunch of totalitarian scumbags. Democrats right now are opening themselves up. And don't get me wrong, you got your folks in the GOP have that same mindset. That Laconian fetish, I call it. Laconianism. That we have to counter. Centralization is dangerous. So what I've done, I am going to add the state constitutions from ballotpedia.org. And I know many of the language in the Declaration of Bill of Rights with those 50 states don't have the right to keep and bear arms, but they have enumerating rights and natural rights, inherent rights. When you read all that, it's self-explanatory. And another thing, too, you ask these ingrates out there, the so-called experts, even on social media, that want tougher firearm laws. They want to blame Trump and the NRA. And don't get me wrong, I have my reservation with President Trump myself, and I'm critical of the National Rifle Association a lot and some of their flaws, or flaws, or what you can say, fallacies, okay, respectfully. Stop blaming them. Think and act locally. And here's another thing, too. Can people prove to me the police are obligated to protect an individual in your state? Including Minnesota. Look what's going on in Chicago, Illinois. There's been, 20 people, 6 people died and 20 got shot, got wounded, got shot, and 6 were murdered. That's not big news. Nope. Because they want to control all that. But everyone knows they're not being fooled anymore. Because we can say this for a fact, that now only 19% of the people watch this news from the mainstream media. ABC, CBS, NBC. Okay? And all the little goofball news stations out there, their ratings are so pathetic. They got all these guys like Don Lemon, all these glamour hacks are getting kicked off because they're terrible. So definitely, I am going to add the sovereign immunity tort liability in all 50 states. There's a chart for that, and it was from Matheson Rickard Lawhurt Law. It was a law firm, and they got some good information on here, so you definitely check it out, and verify too with your own state statutes on this matter, because it's not 100%. As I'm not going after police itself. So you want us disarmed? You want us to trust the police? I mean, how the police are obligated to protect us? Tell them, prove it. They can't. Even in California, of all places. All right? Their gun laws are heinous. It's treasonous. They're putting the war against its people. Any politician that wants to support tougher firearm laws, red flag laws, they are treasonous quacks. They're doing an act of war on its people. There have to be a federal law, but on the state level too. So do your little homework, folks, and read your state constitutions on this, and go a little further. You'd be surprised, because some states is life in prison, others is the death penalty. I know Utah, they have an execution style method, is the firing squad again. Like they had that's been going on for a long time. I know they had the lethal injection for a while, but they say it cost too much. They had to get the drugs imported, so they kept it under the firing squad. So it's good to know these things, folks. Be vigilant, be ready, prepare yourselves at all costs. Even Fellas Papers 28, Alexander Hamilton, believe it or not, talked about the people need to be armed against the killer government, and even 46 too. I'm correct, 45 or 46 by James Madison. It's good to know these things. If you don't learn from the past, my friends, we're damn to repeat it. So I'll put all the links on here to my site. You can check it out for yourselves, including this article. And that will be it. Thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share it throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. That's the number 3 to be exact. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash.app/localluck3. If you want to follow me on Steemit, give me a little crypto love at LL3-Podcast. If you want to support the American thinker, that'd be cool. Subscribe, donate, observe responsibly. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. and may your guardian spirits be with you.